When you play the Game of Thrones, you
Subscribe and like.
or you die. There is no middle ground.
Alright, hello YouTube. Welcome back to the Grease Comedy YouTube channel. Today's video, we are going to be talking about Tyrion in Winds of Winter, continuing on with your guys' questions and topics on this character. Again, if you guys wanted to get your questions in and to make sure you get them in, follow the Instagram. The link is always in the description. I put stories out each week for the character that we're doing. Best way to get questions to me, because Instagram will not make them go missing for some reason, like YouTube sometimes does. So again, do that if you would like. But in this one, we're going to be talking all about Tyrion. But before we get into it, if you guys like to learn more about A Song by Some Fire or talk more about Winds of Winter, consider subscribing, and let's get into the video. So this is going to be really weird because a lot of the questions and topics we have aren't necessarily about Tyrion's plotline. They're a lot about Tyrion's character arc and what he is going through personally, as in his own mind, really. A lot of it is not about, at least what you guys have put in here, about his actual plot, like it has been with like young Griff and Davos and Jon. So again, I will add in my own thoughts when I feel like it's necessary to stuff we aren't really talking about in this video. But let's start. So a lot of this, again, is going to be building up Tyrion's persona, who he is currently, and a little bit of that catch-up. So again, just before we get into the questions, Tyrion is a character at this point of the story that he's very much a darker, villainous character. He is someone that doesn't really have a lot of hope left. He is a very deep alcoholic at this point. He is someone that is okay with manipulating and using people. He is someone that is really revengeful. He hates his family. He wants revenge on them. And so Tyrion comes into the story, especially in Winds of Winter, being a character that necessarily doesn't necessarily believe in Dany, but he sees Dany, in my opinion, as a means to an end. A character in which he can get some revenge on his family, right? On Cersei, on Jaime, because Jaime lied to him about the whole Tysha thing. Cersei was trying to get him killed for things he didn't even do. So he comes into the story as more of a spiteful, vengeful character. And so that's what a lot of these opening questions are going to be kind of surrounding on. But Matthew S. asks, will Tyrion's character become more dark, or will he find hope in Dany and go on a redemption? So for me, I don't think it's that simple. I think Tyrion will remain quite dark. I think he is someone that's going to be very pessimistic, someone that is going to lean into Dany's worst impulses. And so what I think that's going to achieve is, by a certain point, when we see Dany maybe start using her dragons, inflicting them, using them on people, and Tyrion is going to be sitting back. Again, Tyrion's not a warrior. Tyrion is someone that is going to be seeing all this. He's going to see the atrocities, A, of war, but two, of the dragons. That's when I think he'll start to have that change in his arc, where he's going to be a little bit more sympathetic towards the people. He's going to have a little bit of that reversion, as well as, I think, actually getting to know Dany more and how Dany is actually trying to do better for the world. I think that will change Tyrion quite a bit. So I think it's a yes and no. I think there's things that will happen, and I think it's going to be gradual. I think Tyrion's arc of him becoming more of a better person could be something that maybe starts to happen towards the end of Winds of Winter. Also, I do want to note, guys, sorry if you can tell in my voice, I'm kind of dealing with a sore throat thing, which I kind of have like every other week, it feels like. But yeah, so I'm kind of struggling through this one, just trying to get through it so that I can rest up my voice, because I have a lot of recording to do for the event I'm going to be doing in December, which is going to be a lot of videos. And yeah, just for next week as well. But Ivan asks, will Tyrion be able to get some stability from working with Dany, or will George not want Dany to work with him? So it's going to be this case of, okay, does Dany trust Tyrion, right? It's going to be a lot of that, because Tyrion's going to be coming out of nowhere. He is someone that's a Lannister, right? Dany doesn't like the Lannisters, given what happened in the past between the two families. And so it's going to be a lot more of Dany not wanting to work with Tyrion than Tyrion not wanting to work with her. But yes, I think Tyrion will get some stability in Dany, where, again, like we talked about in the first question, I think Tyrion will find a bit more of hope as he goes forward. He'll find a bit more of a better side of himself as the story goes forward. Avery asks a couple questions. How will Tyrion's influence affect the way Barristan rules until Dany returns? I think it's going to affect him quite a lot, because I think Barristan is someone that is more like a Ned style character where he wants to follow the rules. He wants to be someone that's honorable, just, where Tyrion at this point is not that at all, right? Tyrion never really was that, but even more so now, right? He's willing to do these cruel actions. He is willing to do some crueler and underhanded tactics. He is someone that is, again, a villainous character, where Barristan is really a lot more of our hero type of character. What do you think his ultimate goal as Dany's advisor will be? So that's a loaded question, because at first I think Tyrion will be trying to get personal gain. Revenge on his family, taking Cersei off the throne and or killing her, getting revenge on Jaime and their kids, right? So Tommen and even Myrcella maybe, and also getting Casterly Rock for himself. But as he goes forward, I think Tyrion will be motivated by actually supporting Dany and trying to get her on the throne. Do you think Dany will trust Tyrion right away, or will he have to prove? Yeah, he's gonna have to prove himself, right? Tyrion, I think, is someone that could elevate his position, given off of if Barristan has a lot of failings for Dany, right? Let's say Dany comes back and Barristan did a really bad job of handling the Marine situation, and we see that Tyrion in that stead has actually been doing really well, right? So Dany starts to gain trust in him, and so that is the way it's going to happen. I don't think Dany's going to trust Tyrion right off the bat. That doesn't really make sense with her character and kind of the preconceived stuff we know about the two families that have interacted with the Lannisters. The last thing Dany knows about them was them straight up killing Rhaegar's children. So yeah. Again, also, if I ever mispronounce your name, just let me know in the comments. But Kitty, or it's Kitty but with an E, so Kiadi, I don't know. So, sorry if I mispronounced your name. Will Tyrion be a bit better or not? That's a really tough question that I've kind of talked about a little bit in this video already, but I think Tyrion will be not better at the beginning, but he'll slowly get to that point. Will his villainy affect it? Yeah, his villainy is going to affect Dany's decisions. I've talked about this a lot. I think Barristan is more of the angel on Dany's shoulder, whereas Tyrion's the devil. Tyrion's going to be feeding into her more rash impulses, her things where, let's say Dany has a decision where it's like, take the diplomatic route or the fire and blood route. I think Tyrion will lean more into the fire and blood route, whereas Barristan will lean into the diplomatic way. Will he stay with Dany or switch back to young Griff? I think that he is going to stay with Dany. I don't think he really would go to young Griff's camp in any way, right? It doesn't make any sense. Dany has all the clear advantages. She has a bigger army. She has dragons. Now, maybe some of those things could change by the time they come over. But again, in my opinion, I don't really see any point of him switching sides. Also, just narratively, why have Tyrion go all this way to Dany to then have him flip sides when he could have just stayed with young Griff and dance anyway? It just doesn't really make sense to me. Dayton asks, will Tyrion be a better advisor than in the show? And yes, right, George is not going to make Tyrion this idiot now all of a sudden. I think what Tyrion will change, however, is he may make bad decisions based upon his own personal gain, but they'll actually be good decisions for him. Maybe not good decisions for Dany, where, say, Tyrion is prompting Dany to do things because he wants them to be done, but it actually makes Dany's image look worse. It makes her look more cruel. It makes her look not as likable as someone like young Griff. And that's kind of where I think that's going to be interesting in the show, or not in the show, in the book, but that's going to be different than the show. Maz asks, do you think Penny will betray Tyrion? I think there's a chance, right? Tyrion has not been treating Penny the best. I think if Tyrion continues down this road of being a darker character, I definitely think it's possible. Personally, I'm not sure where Penny's going to go. I think Penny could be another character that dies, and that's what also could be leading to Tyrion's change of heart. But who knows? Caesar asks, what do you think would happen if we ever got a Lannister family reunion? Again, it's going to matter on the context, because if Cersei has been overthrown, if Jaime's, separated from Cersei, and then you also have Tyrion coming back into the story, a lot of bitterness, right? Tyrion would hate Cersei, Jaime would hate Cersei, but then Jaime, and then also you would have Cersei hating Tyrion. It'd be three people that do not like any of them, right? And maybe I think Tyrion and Jaime could find common ground, but I don't think that ever happens with Tyrion and Cersei. I don't think Jaime and Cersei ever find that common ground either. So it would be a really messed up situation. Maz then also says, I feel like Tyrion's dialogue is at its best when he has someone dumber than him in his vicinity. I'd like to see our favorite lovable idiot Viserion with Tyrion as a captive and or advisor, and Tyrion spending the entire chapter savagely roasting him. Yeah, I think the two could have a really cool dynamic, just based upon, you also look at the Greyjoys attacking Lannister. Really cool dynamic that could be there. But I agree. I think Tyrion, when he is at a level of superiority knowledge-wise, it's kind of always his best moments. I mean, think about Janos Slynt. It'd be kind of a similar situation. Zach asks, who do you think Tyrion will help instruct to ride Viserion with the Nettles method? Viserion has a ship full of mutton. I don't know if he'll try to tame the dragons for like anyone specifically. I could see what you're talking about being a way in which he brings the dragons to heal a little bit, to where they're not as wild. They're not attacking like everybody, and trying to gain that connection with them again. I think that's possible. Again, I think the two dragons that are not with Dany right now, that's not named Drogon, are in a weird spot, because what does George do with them, right? I don't think it makes sense to have Dany have all three dragons. She's just going to be too OP. So what do, right? Do you have young Griff get a dragon? Do you have Euron get a dragon, or Viserion, or Jon gets a dragon? Like, what's going to happen there? And so I don't know if we're going to see anything like what you're suggesting. That would be a cool idea, though. Samantha asks, do you think Tyrion will be silenced in some way, imprisoned again, or tongue removed? I think he could definitely be imprisoned again. That's possible. Just based upon the fact that he is going to not be the greatest human being. Dany's camp, in my opinion, is, I think, destined to fail. Just based upon, I just think her character is probably, she's going to die. So I don't mean like her campaign's going to fail. I think I see her dying in the war with the others, or maybe a situation in which the public has turned against her so much that it doesn't make sense for her to be the queen. But yeah, I do think tongue removed is also really apparent, and it has to be something in our mind because it's been foreshadowed too many times, right? Like, it's been mentioned way too many times that Tyrion has a very big mouth and his tongue might get removed one day. I think that's very possible as well. User NM goes, will he go to Westeros and will he survive? Yeah, he's definitely going to make it to Westeros. That just has to happen. It doesn't make any sense for him to die in Essos. But will he survive? I think so as well. He's another character like Davos. Like, in what context or situation is he going to die? Like, it would have to be because he is killed for treason, or as some sort of political, killing. He's not going to die in war. He just is not going to be that character put on the front lines. That doesn't make any sense, really. The reason he was again, Blackwater. He had to be the person to step up. And even when you look at, again, with Rob's campaign, when he had to, again, lead the Vanguard, that was because Tywin was kind of using it almost as a situation to kill Tyrion in a like very honorable / glory-filled way. But again, I don't see that really happening. Also, Lumbo, I hope I said that right because you told me how to pronounce it, so hopefully I got that a little bit better right. So again, if I mispronounce your name, just put it in the chat or the, comments. Do you think Jaime and Tyrion will ever see each other again? And if so, do you think Jaime will forgive him for killing Tywin? This is a tough one as well because the timing is so weird. Like, I really do think that Jaime and Cersei could die by the end of Winds of Winter. And if that is the case, we won't ever actually see Tyrion with Jaime or Cersei ever again. And so I wrestle with this quite a lot because I would like to see Tyrion with the two. And I think it, does make sense to have some interaction and conclusion to their stories. I just don't know. I'm very 50-50 if we do see that. And if we do, I do think Jaime and Tyrion could find common ground. I do think they could, because if you look at why both did each action, I think you can understand why they did. And I think if the two were to actually sit down and have a conversation about that, they would be able to figure that out. Mystery asks, will Tyrion ever find out where whores go, aka ever find his first wife? I don't know. I don't really... I would tend to say no, because I don't know what it really adds to the story. I think it's much more building on his character. If he never finds, you know, Tysha again and he has to live with that, I think that's a little bit more tragic to his character, and it also is a little bit more into the develop. I don't know if it really makes sense, or it's even logical. It'd be a really big coincidence if he ever found Tysha again, like finding this random common woman that he was married to once before, but then there's no leads into where she went. We have no idea how she would have gotten to any place. It does feel like a little bit of a coincidence to me and a plot convenience. And so I don't really particularly actually like that idea. Mr. James, you ask a very odd question. I did see this question and I will say it, but I do think it's a bit odd. Will Tyrion ever rape his sister? It's a constant saying in the books. What does he mean by constantly saying and thinking this? Well, I guess there's a couple meanings to it, but it's pretty straightforward. Like, Tyrion seems to have this weird, like, lust or attraction to his sister. Like, even before, like, he leaves in Storm of Swords, he always thinks about how she is, like, attractive. Like, he thinks about that in Clash and in Storm. And so I think a bit of it is, like, he genuinely does want to have sex with his sister, which is quite weird. But two, the other part of this is I think it's something that we see with Cersei in one of her chapters in Feast is sex, and especially the way Tyrion's talking about it, is seen as a form of domination over another person. Think about the Dothraki and the way they view sex at times when it comes to, you know, slaves or servants. It's Tyrion trying to, again, be in a dominant position over his sister. And two, again, I just think he is attracted to her. Will we ever see it? Absolutely not. I hope to God we do not see it. Given that George's writing style, the way he writes sex scenes, I really hope we don't. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what else to say about that. I mean, it just seems kind of straightforward to me, but, you know. So let's talk about, again, so that's all the comments and questions I have, but let's just talk about where Tyrion's going to go, right? So Tyrion, I think, a lot of his time in Winds of Winter is going to be spent trying to gain influence in Meereen and Dany's camp, and going to be, again, trying to help Dany, or, again, help his own personal goals as they're going to Westeros, right? And I think by the time he does get to Westeros, I definitely think he could be in a position of Hand of the Queen, being someone that's kind of her lead politician, and helping her get to where she wants to be. And I think also he's going to be a vessel, again, like the show did this part of it right, where he's a vessel into Jon and Dany meeting, because Tyrion had a fairly good relationship with Jon in the first book, and Jon vice versa. And so that's a way of connecting the two storylines of the Northern Riverland plot to the Dany plot. And I think that makes a lot of sense. He's going to be pivotal in that. Once the war with the others starts, I don't see Tyrion as being this character that's like as impactful or influential, because it's a war, right? Like, there's other people qualified with battle strategy over Tyrion. Tyrion's going to be very influential in the politicking to begin when she gets to Westeros, and then after the War of the Others, if she's still alive, and or what he does once Dany is gone. So again, that is my video on Tyrion and the Winds of Winter and everything going on. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys all in the next one. Bye, guys.